They called her the Maid's daughter. For 23 years, Elena Torres scrubbed the marble floors of the Blackwood estate, while the family she served lived in luxury built on secrets they thought were buried forever. They treated her like furniture. Invisible. Disposable. Beneath their notice.
But what the Blackwoods didn't know was that their maid's daughter had spent every single day of those 23 years searching. She'd come to nothing more than a drawer in the drawer.
And 3 months ago, in a vault behind a false wall in the library, she found it. A single piece of paper that proved the entire Blackwood fortune was a lie. And that paper didn't just prove they were thieves. It proved that Elena wasn't the maid's daughter at all. And when she walked into that board meeting and spoke the 4 words that had been sealed away for 70 years, the silence that followed wasn't just shock. It was the sound of an empire realising it was built. The Blackwood estate sat on 200 acres of pristine Connecticut coastline, like a monument to American aristocracy. At the main house was a Georgian mansion built in 1887 with 26 bedrooms, 14 bathrooms, and enough marble to build a cathedral. The family had owned it for 4 generations. Steel money originally, then railroads, then banking, then tech investments. The Blackwoods had a gift for seeing the future and buying it before anyone else did. Or, so the story went. Elena Torres had lived on the estate her entire life. Not in the main house, in the cottage, the small 2-bedroom structure near the service entrance where the staff had lived since the 1920s. Her mother Sophia had been the head housekeeper for 30 years before she died of cancer when Elena was 19. Sophia had raised Elena alone. Never talked about Elena's father, never talked about her own past. Just worked, quietly, efficiently, teaching Elena to do the same. By the time Elena was 8, she was polishing silver. By 12, she was doing laundry. By 16, she was managing the household inventory and working alongside her mother to keep the vast estate running. They noticed that to them she was just part of the scenery, as invisible as the wallpaper. The current family consists of Richard Blackwood, the patriarch, 72 years old, silver hair, steely eyes. A man who had turned a $100 million inheritance into a $2 billion empire through ruthless business acumen and strategic marriages. His wife Constance, 68, former debutante. She spent her days planning charity goals and her nights drinking gin martinis or criticising everyone around her. Their son Harrison, 45, divorced twice. He ran the family investment firm Blackwood Capital with an iron fist and a cocaine habit. He thought, secret. Dear God, secret. And Harrison's daughter Vivian, 22, recent graduate of Yale. She was being groomed to take over the family business. Beautiful, brilliant, cruel in a casual way that only the truly privileged can be. Elena was 23, exactly 1 year older than Vivian. They had grown up on the same estate, but in completely different worlds. Vivian had gone to Swiss boarding schools, Ivy League universities. Elena had gone to the local public school, community college, online, while working full time. The family wouldn't be up for hours. She started the coffee maker, began preparing breakfast, fresh squeezed orange juice, poached eggs, whole grain toast, exactly how Richard liked it. By 7, the kitchen staff had arrived. Maria the cook, James the butler, Maria the cook. James the butler. Young Tommy, the groundskeeper's son, who helped with heavy lifting. They worked in comfortable silence, a practice routine. At 8, Elena carried Richard's breakfast tray to his study. She knocked softly. Come in. Richard's voice was gravel and cigarettes. He entered. Richard was already at his desk working on his computer. He didn't look up. Just on the desk, he said. She set the tray down, was turning to leave. Elena, she stopped. Yes, sir. Richard finally looked up. His eyes were cold, calculating. 2 o'clock. Make sure the conference room is set up, water pitchers, notepads, the good pens, and stay available. We may need coffee service. Of course, sir. Richard waved his hand. Dismissing her, she left. But as she closed the door, she heard him make a phone call. His voice was low, urgent. It's happening today, finally. After all these years, we're putting it to rest. Make sure the lawyer has the documents. We're sealing the trust permanently. No one can ever access it again. Elena's hand froze on the doorknob. The trust. She had heard whispers about it for years. For years. Bits and pieces of conversation. A sealed family trust that no one was allowed to talk about. Something from the 1950s. Something that made the family nervous whenever it came. Sophia Torres had kept a journal Elena found in the shoebox under her mother's bed after she died. Most of it was mundane.
Daily observations, grocery list. But near the end, there were entries that made Elena's blood run cold. June 3rd, Elena's blood run cold. June 3rd.
The one in the east wing that they keep covered. I pull back the cloth when no one's looking. She looks exactly like Elena. Same eyes, same face. It's impossible. But I know what I saw. June 10th, I found the name. Cast the library record, she was Richard's mother. She died in 1952. They said it was an accident, but the dates don't match. Something is wrong. June 15th, I'm scared. I think they know I've been looking. Constance was watching me today. She asked questions about Elena's father. I told her the same lie, told her the same. I always tell. But she didn't believe me. I need to find proof. For Elena. Before it's too late. June 20th, I found something. Behind the false panel in the library, a metal box. Inside was a birth certificate. Not mine, someone else's. A baby girl born in 1952. Catherine Marie Ashford. But there's another name. Second birth certificate. Same baby. Different name. Different name. Different parents. They changed it. Oh God, they changed everything. That was the last entry. Sophia had died 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later. Officially, it was cancer. She had been diagnosed 6 months earlier. Stage 4. But timing felt wrong to Elena. Her mother had been getting better. Treatments were working. Then suddenly she was gone. Elena had spent 3 months searching the library, looking for that false panel, that metal box. She searched every night after the family went to bed, running her hands along the walls, tapping the wood panels, looking for hollow spaces, and then she found it, hidden behind the documents inside told a story that should have been impossible, but the evidence was there. Notarized, signed, sealed. Catherine Ashford had been Richard Blackwood's mother. She had married Richard's father, Thomas Blackwood, in 1950. In 1952, she had given birth to a daughter. Catherine Marie Ashford Blackwood. But 6 months later, Catherine Ashford died. Officially, it was a car accident. She drove off a cliff on the Pacific Coast Highway. Her body was never recovered. The baby disappeared from all records. Then, in 1953, Thomas Blackwood married a woman named Victoria Sterling. In 1954, Victoria gave birth to a son, Richard Thomas Blackwood. The family story was that Richard was Thomas's own child. The heir to the Blackwood fortune viewed a document in that box. Richard had an older sister. A sister who should have inherited everything. A sister who had been erased, and there was more. A DNA test dated 1975 comparing samples from Richard Blackwood and Richard Blackwood. The results showed minimal match, partial DNA overlap, consistent impairment. A relationship. In the end, Sophia was Catherine's daughter, which meant Elena was Catherine's granddaughter, which meant Elena wasn't the maid's daughter. She was the rightful heir to the Blackwood fortune. The documents explained everything. Thomas Blackwood had wanted a son. When Catherine gave birth to a daughter, he was furious. Then Catherine discovered something. Evidence that Thomas was having an affair with Victoria Sterling. Evidence that they were planning to kill her. Catherine had run, taken her infant daughter. Disappeared. But Thomas found her. Disappeared. But Thomas found her. Staged the car accident. Took the baby back. But Catherine had been smart. She had left the baby with someone she trusted. A woman who worked in the household. The woman had raised the child as her own, changed the baby's name, moved away. That child was Sophia. Years later, Sophia had come back. Gotten a job at the estate under a different name. She was looking for proof. looking for justice, but she had been too afraid to act, afraid of what the Blackwoods would do. So she had hidden the evidence, and she had kept her daughter, Elena, close, hoping that someday Elena would be brave enough to do what she couldn't. Elena had sat in that library for hours, reading and rereading those documents. Her entire life had been a lie. She wasn't the help, she was family, the eldest heir of the Blackwood line. Everything the Blackwoods had should have been hers. But she couldn't just walk in and announce it. She needed a plan. She needed leverage. She needed to wait for the right moment. And now sitting outside Richard's study listening to him talk about sealing the trust permanently, her one at the end realised the moment had come. She spent the rest of the morning preparing. She made copies of every document, uploaded them to 3 separate cloud storage accounts, sent encrypted copies to a lawyer she had contacted 2 weeks ago, a woman named Patricia Reeves who specialised in inheritance disputes. Patricia had been stunned when she saw the documents. "This is extraordinary," she had said. "Ash, hold up, you're not just an heir, Elena." "Oh, you're the primary heir. Richard is illegitimate. The entire family fortune should be yours, but we need to be careful. The Blackwoods have lawyers. They have money." So at 1:45, the board members began arriving. Richard entered first. He nodded at Elena. "Make sure we're not disturbed." "Yes, sir," Elena said. She left the room. Closed the door. She didn't go far. She waited in the hallway. At exactly 2 o'clock, the meeting began. She could hear Richard's voice through the door, calling the meeting to order, discussing quarterly reports, investment returns. Then he moved to the main agenda item, the permanent sealing of the Catherine Ashford Trust. There were murmurs of agreement. There were murmurs of agreement. One of the trustees asked a question about legal ramifications. Richard's lawyer, a man named Douglas Perth, assured everyone it was airtight. Once this is sealed, Perth said no one can contest it. The statute of limitations will expire. Any potential claims would be void. The Catherine Ashford line is officially extinct. "Let's put it to a vote," Richard said. "All in favour." Elena opened the door. She walked into the conference room. Every head turned. Richard's face darkened. "I have something to say," Elena said. Her voice was steady, calm. Richard stood up. "No, you don't. You're the help." "Get help." "I'm not the help," Elena said. She walked to the head of the table. Stood directly across from Richard. "My name is Elena Catherine. I am the granddaughter of Catherine Marie Ashford Blackwood, and I am here to claim my inheritance." The room went silent. "You're insane," Richard said, but his voice wavered. Catherine Ashford died in 1952. She had no children. She had a daughter, Elena said. She placed the folder on the table. "Sophia Ashford Torres, my mother. And I have proof." She opened the folder, pulled out the birth certificate, the DNA test, the photographs, the affidavit. Richard's face went white. He grabbed the document. His hands were shaking. "Where did you get these?" "From the safe in the library," Elena said. "The one behind the false panel. The one you thought no one would ever find." Harrison lunged forward. He snatched the papers from his father. "Read them." Looked at Elena. "This is fraud," he said. "You faked it," he said. "You faked these. These from 1975, Elena said calmly. "I've had it independently verified by 2 separate labs. The results are the same. Sophia Torres was Catherine Ashford's daughter, which makes me the direct descendant of Thomas and Catherine Blackwood." She turned to face the entire board. "According to the original Blackwood Trust document from 1948, the estate part, which means the divorce was illegal, which means Richard is illegitimate, which means everything you have belongs to me." Douglas Perth, the lawyer, was flipping through the document. His face was pale. "Richard, these are real. The notary stamps, the DNA markers, the legal language. If this goes to court, we'll lose. We won't let it go to court," Richard snarled. He pointed at Elena. "You're nothing. A maid's daughter. You have no standing. No money, no lawyers. You can't fight us." "I already have a lawyer," Elena said. "Patricia Reeves. She's filed a claim with the probate court." As of this morning, there's an injunction on all Blackwood assets pending a full investigation, and I've sent copies of these documents to the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and Forbes. The room erupted. Vivian was staring at Elena with wide eyes. The trustees were arguing. Richard slammed his fist on the table. Shut up. Everyone shut up. He looked at Elena. His eyes were filled with hate. You think you can take this from me? From my family? We built this empire. We made the Blackwood name mean something. You're just a girl with some old papers. Even if they're real, and I'm not saying they are, you don't have what it takes to run this. You don't have the education, the connections, the experience. You'll fail. You'll fail. And when you do, you'll come crawling back, begging for scraps. Elena smiled. It was a cold smile. I've been running this estate for 4 years, Mr. Blackwood. Since my mother got too sick to work, I manage the staff, the inventory, the accounts. I negotiate with vendors, schedule repairs, household budget. I do it all. While you sit in your study drinking scotch and pretending you're still relevant, she leaned forward. You think I don't know how this place works? I know every inch of this estate, every secret, every lie. I know about Harrison's cocaine problem. I know about the affairs, the embezzlement. The newest one. The offshore accounts he used to dodge taxes. I know everything, and it's all going to come out. Harrison stood up. His face was red. You're threatening us. I'm informing you, Elena said. You have 2 choices. You can fight this in court. Drag choices. You can fight this in court. Drag the family name through the mud. Expose every dirty secret. Spend millions on lawyers and lose anyway. Or you can accept reality. Step down. Transfer control of the trust to me, and I'll let you keep your dignity. I'll give you a settlement. Enough to live comfortably. But the estate, the company, the Blackwood name, mine. Richard was trembling with rage. Get out of my house. It's not your house, Elena said. She picked up her folder. It never was. He walked to the door, stopped, turned back. Oh, and one more thing. I'm moving into the master suite tonight. You have until 6 o'clock to clear out. The board meeting dissolved into chaos. Elena walked out of the conference room, down the hallway, through the service entrance, back to the cottage. Her heart was pounding. Her hands were shaking. But she had done it. She had finally said it out loud. Now the real fight would begin. The next 72 hours were a blur. The story hit the news exactly as Elena had planned. Heiress discovered after 70 years. Maid's daughter claims billionaire fortune. The Blackwood secret that could topple an empire. The press descended on the estate like locusts. Cameras. Satellite trucks lined the driveway. The Blackwoods went into lockdown. Richard refused to comment. Harrison released a statement calling Elena a con artist. Vivian posted on Instagram, calling the whole thing a publicity stunt. But Patricia Reeves, Elena's lawyer, was a machine. She held a press conference, presented the evidence, DNA tests, birth certificates, the original trust documents. She had experts verify everything, geneticists, forensic document analysts, historians who specialized in genealogy. Every single one confirmed the same thing. Elena Torres was exactly who she said she was. The legal heir to the Blackwood fortune. The probate court moved quickly. Within a week, there was a preliminary hearing. Elena sat at the plaintiff's table wearing a simple black suit that Patricia had bought her. Composed. Across the aisle, the Blackwoods had assembled a team of 12 lawyers, led by Douglas Perth and a man named Marcus Aldridge, who specialized in inheritance disputes. Marcus was famous for never losing. Judge Catherine Brennan presided. She was 63, known for being tough but fair. She had read all the documents, heard all the arguments, and she looked skeptical. Miss Reeves, Judge Brennan said, "This is an extraordinary claim. You're asking this court to overturn 70 years of established family succession. To declare that Richard Blackwood, one of the most prominent businessmen in America, is illegitimate. and to transfer a $2 billion estate to a young woman who until last week was employed as household staff. Yes, Your Honour, Patricia said, standing, because the law is clear. The Blackwood Trust was established in 1948 with specific language. The estate passes to the eldest legitimate heir of Thomas Blackwood's bloodline. Elena is that heir. Richard Blackwood is not. Marcus Aldridge stood. Your Honour, this entire case rests on documents that were allegedly hidden for 70 years. Documents that conveniently support Ms. Torres's claim. We argue that these documents are fabricated, that this is an elaborate fraud designed to extort money from the Blackwood family. Judge Brennan looked at Patricia. We've had the documents examined by 3 independent experts, Your Honour. Patricia handed a stack of reports to the bailiff. Dr. Raymond Foster from Yale University analysed the paper and ink. Both date to the 1950s. Dr. Linda Chen performed DNA analysis comparing samples from Miss Torres Richard Blackwood and preserved samples from Thomas Blackwood's medical records. The results confirm familial relationship. Familial relationship. And Dr. Marcus Stone, a forensic document examiner, verified that the signatures and notary stamps are genuine. Patricia paused. We also have testimony from a witness who worked at the Blackwood estate in the 1950s. A woman named Margaret Sullivan. She's 94 years old. And she remembers Catherine Ashford's baby. She remembers the night Catherine disappeared. And she remembers Thomas Blackwood threatening to kill anyone who talked about it. The courtroom erupted. Marcus Aldridge objected. Your Honour, this is hearsay. This woman's memory of events from 70 years ago is unreliable, at best. I'd like to hear what she has to say, Judge Brennan said. Bring her in. The bailiff opened the courtroom doors. A woman in a wheelchair was brought in. Margaret Sullivan looked ancient. Paper. Thin-skinned, white hair.
But her eyes were sharp. Clear, she was small. Mrs. Sullivan, Patricia did it gently. Can you tell us about your time working at the Blackwood estate? I was a kitchen maid, Margaret said. Her voice was thin but steady. I worked there but not studied. I was 17 when I started.
Did you know Catherine Ashford Blackwood? Oh yes, Margaret's eyes grew distant. She was beautiful, kind. Not like the rest of them. She was young. Mr. Thomas was excited. He wanted a boy. An heir. But when the baby came, it was a girl. Mr. Thomas was furious. He wouldn't even look at the baby. Mrs. Catherine was heartbroken. Margaret's hands trembled. Then, one night, I heard shouting. I was in the kitchen. It was like, maybe midnight.
I heard Mr. Thomas and a woman. Not Mrs. Catherine, someone else. They were in the study. I crept closer. Listen, what did you hear? What did you hear?
The other woman, I found out later, it was Victoria Sterling, she said. They should make it look like an accident. I was terrified. I ran back to my room, didn't tell anyone. And what happened to Catherine? She disappeared 3 days later. They said she took the baby and ran away. Then a month later, they said she crashed her car, died, but the baby was found alive. Except when they brought the baby back to the estate, it wasn't the same baby. I knew what Mrs. Catherine's baby looked like. I had held her. This baby looked different. They had switched her. Margaret looked directly at Elena, but I saw the real baby again. Years later. Maybe 1970. The new housekeeper started, Sophia Torres. The first time I saw her, I nearly fainted. She looked exactly like Mrs. Catherine. Same face. Same hair. I knew she was the real baby. Did you tell anyone? I was afraid, Margaret whispered. Mr. Thomas was still alive then. He was old, but he was me. I kept quiet. I'm sorry. I should have said something. It's okay, Elena said softly. You're saying it now. Judge Brennan was writing notes. She looked at Marcus Aldridge. Do you wish to cross-examine? Marcus, he looks uncomfortable. Mrs. Sullivan, you're 94 years old. How can you be certain your memory of events from 70 years ago is accurate? Some things you don't forget, Margaret said. Fear, that's something you remember. feet of Thomas Blackwood for 40 years. Even after he died, I was afraid his family would come after me if I talked. But I'm old now. What can they do to me? She looked at Richard. Your father was a monster, and you're just like him. The courtroom was silent. Judge Brennan cleared her throat. I'm going to take a short recess. Sure, we'll reconvene in 1 hour. During the recess, Elena sat in the hallway with Patricia. How do you think it's going? Elena asked. Good, Patricia said. Margaret's testimony was powerful, but the Blackwoods aren't done. They're going to attack your character. Try to prove you're not capable of managing the estate. Be ready. These all sorts. His hands shook slightly. Mr. Blackwood Marcus began. How long have you known Adelaide Torres? My whole life, Harrison said. She grew up on the estate. Her mother was our housekeeper. Would you say she has the education and experience necessary to run a $2 billion corporation? Harrison laughed. Absolutely not. She went to community college online. She's never worked in finance. Never managed a company. She has no idea what she's doing. If she takes over Blackwood Capital within a year. Patricia stood. Objection, Your Honour. The witness is speculating, Your Honour. The witness is speculating, Mr. Brennan said. Mr. Blackwood, stick to facts, Marcus continued. Has Elena Torres ever demonstrated dishonesty? Harrison nodded. Yes. She's been stealing from us for years. Stealing? Elena stood up. That's a lie. Order, Judge Brennan said. Miss Torres, sit down. Harrison smirked. We've been missing items, jewellery, cash, small things. I always suspected it was Elena. Now I know why. She was planning this con all along. Patricia stood. Your Honour, I'd like to present evidence. She handed documents to the bailiff. These are the household account records for the past 5 years. Elena Torres managed these accounts. Every penny is accounted for. There are no discrepancies. In fact, Elena actually saved the family over $200,000 through better vendor negotiations and inventory management. She also has bank statements showing every dollar she's earned. No unexplained deposits, no stolen goods. Patricia turned to Harrison. Mr. Blackwood, on the other hand, has over $3 million in unexplained deposits in offshore accounts. Would you like to explain those? Harrison's face went red. That's none of your business. Those are personal accounts. Personal accounts funded by embezzlement from Blackwood Capital, Patricia said. We have evidence that you've been siphoning money from the company for years. Tax evasion, wire fraud, securities violations. The SC is very interested in talking to you. Judge Brennan banged her gavel. Miss Rees, that's enough. This isn't the trial for corporate malfeasance. Stick to the inheritance claim. Of course, Your Honour, Patricia said. But it does speak to character. Harrison Blackwood accuses my client of theft, while he himself has been stealing millions. Who's really the criminal here? Marcus tried to redirect, called Vivian to the stand. Vivian was composed, elegant. She spoke confidently about the family business, about tradition, about how devastating it would be to lose their legacy. But Patricia destroyed her on cross-examination. You graduated from Yale with a degree in art history, correct? Yes, Vivian said. And you've worked at Blackwood Capital for how long? 6 months. What's your role? 6 months. What's your role? I'm being trained to take over eventually. So you're an intern. I'm an associate, Vivian snapped. An associate who has never managed a budget, never hired staff, never negotiated a contract. Patricia looked at the judge. Elena Torres has managed a multi-million-dollar household for years. She has real experience. Vivian Blackwood has a degree in the famous last name. Who's really qualified here? The trial lasted 3 weeks. Expert after expert testified. Geneticists confirmed the DNA. Historians verified the documents. Accountants showed that Elena had been essentially running the estate for years. The Blackwoods fought hard. They brought in their own experts, tried to poke holes in the evidence, but it wasn't enough. On November 3rd, Judge Brennan delivered her ruling. After reviewing all evidence and testimony, I find that Elena Catherine Torres is the biological great-granddaughter of Thomas Blackwood through his daughter, Catherine Marie Ashford. The documents presented are authentic. The DNA evidence is conclusive. Furthermore, I find that Thomas Blackwood's marriage to Victoria Sterling in 1953 was invalid, as his marriage to Catherine Ashford was never legally dissolved. This means Richard Blackwood, the biological son of Thomas Blackwood, was born out of wedlock and cannot inherit under the terms of the 1948 Blackwood Family Trust. Judge Brennan did Elena. I hereby declare Elena Catherine Torres the rightful heir and primary beneficiary of the Blackwood estate. All assets, including the estate property, Blackwood capital, and associated holdings, are to be transferred to Miss Torres effective immediately. The courtroom exploded. Reporters were shouting. The Blackwoods were on their feet. Richard was yelling about appeals, but Judge Brennan's gavel silenced them. Mr. Blackwood, you have 30 days to vacate the premises. Miss Torres is the legal owner. This court is adjourned. Elena sat in stunned silence. It was over. She had won. She had won. Serge, she had won.
Patricia hugged her. You did it. You actually did it. Elena looked at the Blackwoods. Richard was being restrained by his lawyers. Harrison was already on his phone, probably calling his drug dealer. Vivian was crying. For a moment, Elena felt a pang of sympathy. Then she remembered every insult, cold inch,
Every dismissive look, every time they had treated her like she was invisible. The sympathy faded. On November 5th, Elena moved into the master suite of the Blackwood mansion. The Blackwoods had already left, moved to a hotel in the city, while their lawyers filed appeals. Elena walked through the house alone. It was strange seeing it empty. No Richard in the study. No Constance in the sitting room. No Vivian taking selfies by the pool. It was just Elena and the ghosts of her grandma. Stern, cold, the man who had tried to erase her family. She took it down. In the storage room, she found another painting. The one her mother had mentioned in her diary. The one that was always kept covered. Elena pulled off the cloth. It was Catherine Ashford Blackwood, young, beautiful, smiling. She looked exactly like Elena. Same dark hair, same green eyes, same smile. Elena hung the portrait in the main hallway where everyone could see it. Over the next 6 months, Elena transformed everything. She kept some of the staff, the ones who had been kind to her and her. The ones who had been kind to her. She fired the ones who had been cruel. She brought in new management for Blackwood Capital, hired a CEO with actual ethics, implemented oversight, stopped the embezzlement, cleaned up the corruption. The company thrived. Within a year, Blackwood Capital was more than ever. But Elena didn't keep the Blackwood name. She changed it. Ashford Holdings, in honour of her grandmother, the woman who had been erased. She used the fortune to do good, created a foundation for women escaping abuse, funded scholarships for kids from working-class families, built affordable housing. She became everything the Blackwoods had never been: generous, kind, present. The Blackwoods tried to fight back, filed lawsuit after lawsuit, but he lost every time. Richard died 2 years later. Heart attack. Stress, they said. But Elena knew it was rage. The rage of a man who had lost everything. Harrison went to prison. The SEC investigation Patricia had mentioned turned out to be real. He was convicted of security fraud and tax evasion. Sentenced to 8 years, Vivian tried to rebuild. Started her own investment firm. He cut it now. No one wanted to work with her. She eventually moved to Europe, disappeared from public life. And Elena? She thrived. She married a doctor she met at a charity event. Had 2 children. Raised them in the cottage, not the mansion. She wanted them to understand where they came from. To remember that wealth means nothing if you lose your humanity. On the 10th anniversary of taking over the estate, Elena held a memorial service for her mother, for for her grandmother Catherine. For all the women whose stories had been silenced, she invited Margaret Sullivan, the woman who had testified. Margaret was 104 now, frail, but she came. You did it, Margaret whispered, holding Elena's hand. You brought her back. Catherine, you made them remember. Elena squeezed her hand. I couldn't have done it without you. That night, Elena stood on the balcony of the mansion, looked out at the ocean. The waves crashed against the rocks, constant, eternal. She thought about her mother, about the diary, about the courage it took for Sophia to come back to this place, to search for truth even when she knew it might kill her. Kill her. Elena had finished what her mother started.
She had reclaimed their name, their legacy, their dignity. The Blackwoods had tried to erase them, tried to make them visible. But you can't erase the truth. You can bury it, hide it, lock it away, hide it. Someone will find it. And when they do, the lies crumble. The empires crumble, the empires fall.
And justice, even after 70 years, finally comes home. Elena Torres proved that no matter how powerful someone is, no matter how much money they have, no matter how deeply they bury their secret, it just needs one person brave enough to speak it. And sometimes that person is the one everyone overlooks. The one they called the Maid's daughter invisible. The one they called the Maid's daughter. She was the heir. She made damn sure the whole world knew it. 20 years passed. The Ashford estate became a symbol, not of old money and aristocracy, but of justice and redemption. Elena had transformed the mansion into something meaningful. Part of it was still her family's private residence, but she had opened sections to the public. The East Wing was now a museum dedicated to forgotten women of history, women like her grandmother Catherine, women whose stories have been buried by powerful men. The West Wing housed the Ashford Foundation headquarters. The foundation had grown beyond Elena's wildest dreams. It had helped thousands of women escape domestic violence, funded education for over 10,000 children from low-income families, built housing developments in 12 cities. It was everything the Blackwood fortune should have been used for, but never was. Elena was 43 now. Her hair threads of silver. Her face had lines around her eyes from smiling. She looked like her grandmother Catherine. But she had something Catherine never got to have. Peace. She was in her office one morning in early spring, when her assistant knocked. Mrs. Ashford, there's someone here to see you. Who is it? She says her name is Vivian Blackwood. Elena's pen froze. She hadn't seen Vivian in 18 years, not since Vivian had moved to London after the trial. What does she want? I don't know. But she looks Elena. The assistant paused. She looks desperate. Elena took a breath. Send her in. The woman who entered barely resembled the polished heiress, who had once looked through Elena like she was glass. Vivian Blackwood was 40 now. Her designer clothes were worn at the edges. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail.
She had dark circles under her eyes. She looked thin, tired, defeated. Elena gestured a chair across from her desk. Sit. She clutched a warm satin. She clutched a worn leather bag in her lap. Her hands were shaking. Thank you for seeing me, she said quietly.
The arrogance was gone. Elena leaned back in her chair. Why are you here, Vivian? Vivian looked down at her hands. I need help. Elena almost laughed. You need help from me. I know how it sounds, Vivian said quickly. I know what my family did to you, to your mother, to your grandmother, to your grandmother, to your grandmother. I know we don't deserve anything from you, but I have nowhere else to go. Elena studied her. What's happened? Everything, Vivian whispered. After my father died, after Harrison went to prison, I tried to rebuild. I started an investment firm in London, but the Blackwood name was poison. No one would work with me. Clients pulled out. Partners left. I lost everything. She paused. Then I got sick. Cancer. Ovarian. Stage 3. Elena's expression didn't change. I'm sorry to hear that. I couldn't afford treatment, Vivian continued. I'd spent everything trying to save the business. I came back to the States hoping maybe I could find work, but no one will hire me. I've applied to hundreds of jobs. The moment they see my name, they reject me. She looked up at Elena. Tears were running down her face. I'm dying. I have maybe 6 months without treatment. Maybe 2 years with it. But I can't afford it. I have nothing. No money, no insurance. No family left. Elena sat in silence. Part of her, the part that remembered every cruel word, every dismissive look, wanted to tell Vivian to get out. Wanted to let her face the same desperation Elena's mother had faced. But another part of her, the part that had spent 20 years building something better than revenge, couldn't do it. How much do you need? Elena asked quietly. Vivian blinked. What? How much does the treatment cost? I can't eat a Vivian stammered. You already did, Elena said. How much? 200,000, Vivian whispered, for the full course of treatment, radiation, chemo, surgery. Elena opened her desk drawer, pulled out her checkbook. Started writing. What are you doing? Vivian asked. I'm giving you 300,000, Elena said. 200 for treatment. 100 for living expenses while you recover. Vivian stared at her. Why? Why would you help me? Because Elena said, looking up. I'm not you. I'm not your father. I don't punish people for being born into the wrong family. You were cruel to me, Vivian. You treated me like... You treated me like I was nothing. But you were 22. You were raised by people who taught you that cruelty was normal. That's not entirely your fault. She tore out the check, held it out. But, understand this. I'm not doing this because I forgive you. I'm doing this because my grandmother, Catherine... She was kind, even when the world was cruel to her. I'm trying to honour that. Vivian took the check with trembling hands. I don't know what to say. Say thank you, Elena said. And then do better. And then do better, be better than your family was. Vivian nodded, tears streaming down her face. Thank you. Thank you so much. Right. Elena watched her leave. To a strange sense of closure. She had won. Not just the estate, not just the fortune. She had won something bigger. She had broken the cycle. That evening, Elena drove to the cemetery. She did this every year on the anniversary of her mother's death. The grave was simple. Sophia Ashford Torres, beloved mother, gone too soon. Elena placed flowers on the stone. Sat down in the grass beside it. I did it, Mom, she said softly. I finished what you started. I found the truth. I found the truth. I made them pay. And I'm really trying to use this fortune the way you would have wanted. To help people. To be kind. She paused. Vivian came to see me today. Can you believe that? She needed help. And I helped her. I think you would have done the same. The wind rustled through the trees. Elena felt a sense of peace. Her mother had spent her whole life afraid, hiding, running from a family that wanted to erase her. But Elena had stood up, had won, and now she was making sure that no one else would ever be erased again. 6 months later, Elena received a letter later. It was from Vivian. Dear Elena, I wanted you to know that the treatment is working. The doctors say I'm in remission. I have a chance now. A real chance at life. And it's because of you. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about being better. I started volunteering at a women's shelter in Boston, helping women who are in situations like I imagine your grandmother was in, trapped, afraid, afraid, powerless. It's not much. But it's something. I can never undo what my family did to yours. I can never take back the things I said to you. But I want you to know that I'm trying. I'm trying to be someone who deserves the kindness you showed me. Thank you, Elena, for seeing me as a person. Not just as a Blackwood. With gratitude, Vivian. The fact that Vivian was trying, that was enough. 2 more years passed. The Ashford Foundation expanded into international work. Elena travelled the world, built schools in rural communities, funded medical clinics in places that had never had access to healthcare. She used every penny of the Blackwood fortune to undo the damage that family had done. One day she received a call from Patricia Reeves, her lawyer, the woman who had helped her win everything. Patricia, we haven't talked in months, Elena said. How are you? I'm good, Patricia. But I'm calling because something interesting just happened. What? A woman just contacted my office. She's information about another sealed trust, another family that's been hiding heirs, erasing inconvenient children. She wants to know if you'd be interested in helping her. Elena paused. She thought about her grandmother, about her mother, about all the people who had been erased by powerful families who thought they could rewrite history. Tell her, yes, Elena said. Tell her I'll help. Because this was bigger than the Blackwood estate. This was bigger than one family's crime. This was about making sure that the truth, no matter how deeply it was buried, always found its way to the light. And the light, Torres, formerly the invisible Maid's daughter, now one of the most powerful women in America, was going to make damn sure it did. She had spent 23 years being overlooked, being invisible, being told she was nothing. But she had turned that invisibility into a weapon. She had watched, listened, learned. And when the moment came, she had struck with precision. The Blackwoods had thought they were untouchable. They had thought their money and their name could protect them from the truth. They were wrong, because no amount of money can hide the truth forever. No amount of truth forever. No amount of power can erase what really happened. And no amount of arrogance can protect you from someone who knows exactly who you are and exactly what you've done. Her grandmother's story, her mother's story, it became an international bestseller, inspired dozens of people to come forward with their own stories of being erased by powerful families. The book led to investigations, lawsuits. Several other families were exposed for hiding heirs. For forging documents, to stealing inheritances. The legal system began to take these cases seriously. Laws were changed. Statutes of limitations were extended for inheritance fraud. It became harder for wealthy families to bury their secrets. And it all started because one woman refused to stay invisible. Because Elena Torres took the scraps of evidence her mother had left behind and built a case that changed everything. She didn't do it for revenge. Though that was satisfying. She didn't do it for money. Though the fortune helped, she did it because it was right. Because her grandmother deserved to be remembered. Because her mother deserved justice. Because every person who has ever been told they are nothing deserves to know. There was someone. On Elena's 50th birthday, she stood in the portrait gallery of the Ashford estate. The gallery had changed. Catherine's portrait still hung in the place of honour, but now there were others. Sophia Torres, Elena's mother, smiling in a photograph from the 1990s. Margaret Sullivan, the woman who had testified, who had been brave enough to tell the truth, and dozens of other women. Women the foundation had helped. Women who had escaped abuse. Women who had been erased and had fought their way back. Elena looked at her grandmother's portrait. "I hope I made you proud," she whispered. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Her daughter, 16 years old, brilliant, kind. 16 years old, brilliant, kind. She looked like Catherine, like Sophia, like Elena, like things had come before her. "Mom, dinner's ready." Elena turned, smiled, humming Sweetheart. She took one last look at the gallery, at the faces of women who had refused to be forgotten, and she walked toward her future. Because the Blackwoods had tried to erase her family, tried to bury their story, tried to make them disappear. But they had failed, because some stories refused to stay buried, some truths refused to stay hidden, and some women refused to stay invisible. Elena Torres was one of them, and her story would be told for generations, not as a cautionary tale, but as proof that no matter how powerful your enemies are, no matter how deeply they bury the truth, no matter how long it takes, justice always finds a way. You just have to be patient enough to wait for it. Smart enough to find it, and brave enough to speak it. Elena had been all three, and she had won. Not just for herself, but for every invisible person who had ever been told they didn't matter. She had proved that they did. Always have. And that no one, not even the most powerful families in the world, could erase that truth. The Blackwood Empire had fallen, but the Ashford legacy had risen from its ashes, and it would endure long after Elena was gone.
She had got it on something the Blackwoods never had. Truth. Justice.
And the unshakable belief that every person, no matter where they come from, no matter who their parents were met as, claimed to Elena's real inheritance, not the money, not the estate. The knowledge that she had taken everything they tried to use to destroy her. And something that would help people for generations to come. And in the end, it was the greatest revenge of all. Not destroying your enemies, but proving that you were always better than them. That you were always better than them. That you always would be. And become impossible to ignore. And so grandmother Catherine Ashford Blackwood was finally home.